Hello, it's Nikki, and welcome to another event video. This is the 2.5 Enkanomiya quest, or event. Event video. So this is a juicy one. Please go ahead and give a view and a like to the original content creator video down in the description to show some love, and let's hop into it. Stingray 3.
事態はかなり切迫しているかと。ご苦労様です。ひとまずメカジキ一番隊を待機させてください。
Swordfish 1.
私はこれより負傷者の手当てをしてまいり
That's
ます。
us.
おーい、ココミー、元気にしてたか？おや、メカジキ2番隊の
Oh,
隊長で
no,
はありませんか。
Swordfish 2. Oh shit.
私に島に戻ってい
Don't
た
know
のですね。
the name of our own squad.
ただ
Shit,
せっ
sorry.
かくお越しいただいたところ申し訳ないのですが、見ての通り今はおもてなしする余裕がない状況でして。何かあったのか？先日
I'm actually so
私
excited
の
for
指
this
揮のもと、渡積島で最も重要な儀式、渡積御陵祭りを
this
行った
event
ので
because
す
I
が、
just finished
その
the
ことは
Enka
もうすで
quests,
につゆこから聞いています
the
よ
world
ね。
quest,
おいらたちがつゆこに協力したことを
and I'm like, I have so many things to say about it.
つゆこは産後宮の巫女の中でも実務を得意とする方です。渡積御陵祭りの企画を任せれば彼女の能力を生かすことができます。
Okay.
依頼を受けてくれた人の特徴を彼女から聞き、すぐにあなただと分かりました。なんか急に怪しくなってきたぞ。すでにつゆこから聞いているかもしれませんが、渡積御陵祭りは渡積島の焦土化を反転させるための儀式です。
Yes.
焦土化によって土地は不毛となります。これは渡積島の農業に多大な影響を与えるものです。渡積島の主な食料源は農作物ではありません。しかしその影響で食生活が変わることや輸入品に頼らざるを得なくなることは
This is so
決してあ
cool.
ってはなりま
This
せん。
whole like bleaching thing, it's so cool.
つまりどういうことだ？
I'm gonna try not to go off on
これ
tangents.
から先
I'm gonna try so hard to keep it to the
肉や魚は手に入らな
end.
くなり、パイモンさんは大根しか食べられなくなる。
The horror on her
この例え
face.
でしたら分かりやすいでしょうか。それってすごく大変なことじゃないか。はい、その渡積御陵祭りに問題が発生したのです。もちろん私が行った儀式の手順に漏れはありません。あなた
Okay.
が回収してくれた決死サンゴも確かに大神の力が宿っていました。ですが焦土化現象が反転する気配は一向になく、それどころか停止してしまったの
Oh
です。
god.
このような
Paused.
ことは過去にも例がありません。これは渡積島の存続に関わる重大な問題と言えましょう。私は塩化宮の状況を調べるため可能な限り人員を割き、その調査に向かわせました。3番隊からの報告によると、振り払うことのできない暗闇が塩化宮を覆っているとのことです。そして見たこともない魔物がいたとも言っていました。振り払えない暗闇に
Wait.
こともない魔物。これ以外の情報は3番隊の調査では得られませんでしたので、有益な情報はほとんどありません。また過酷な環境のため数多くの兵が不慮の災難に見舞われ
It's
ました。
just like the old days when there was like darkness and the people were having to fend for themselves.
本当に申し訳ありません。どうかもう一度ご助力いただけないでしょうか。渡積島を代表して心よりお願いします。
I mean,
冗談
of
はよして
course.
ください。ですが渡積島のためまたお力をお貸しいただけるとのこと、ありがとうございます。では早速私と共につゆこに会いに行きましょう。
Alright, here we are again.
産後宮様、それに旅人もお二人は。なるほど、お二人は相引きをするようになってましたか。
ざけはよしてください、つゆ子。そのような態度でいたら来年は亡きと交代し、渡積島のフライム生態管理を担当してもらいますよ。
Aether looks so put out.
お二人が
It's because the traveler's already dating
エン
Zhao.
カノミヤの件でしょうか。
さっきココミから聞いたんだ。
ココミですか。でしたら、すでに
She looks so
気に
annoyed.
なっていることでしょう。今、エンカノミヤは異様な暗闇に包まれています。また、何もないはずのとこ
Humanoid
ろから見たこ
monsters.
ともない人型の魔物が現れているとのことです。
人型の魔物？
はい、自らの意志で動く鎧です。精神が錯乱してしまった者の証言のようにも聞こえますが、帰還した負傷者たち全員がそれについて語っています。それだけではありません。
The Abyss
暗
Lectors?
闇の中では普通の敵でさえも手
Actually,
強い
when
そうで
was
す。
this? When?
それゆえ
Okay.
A3 番隊は停滞被害を受けました。しかし撤退した負傷者がもう一つ不可解なことを口にしています。罪と名乗る巫女が負傷者を治療しているら
Is
しいのです。
did this event happen after
サン
the
ゴノミヤの記
main
録には
world quest
その
down
よう
there?
な巫
Or
女は
like
存在しな
in
いはず。
conjunction with it?
はい、確かに記録にはありません。しかし彼女は戦闘祭という儀式を執り行い、エンカノミヤの
Oh,
中央
wow.
に明かりを灯しました。彼女のおかげで負傷した兵士たちは安心して治療を受けることができています。
戦闘祭、確か宴会祝湯修正でその
Wow.
名前を見たことがあります。ですがこの儀
Oh,
式は
cool.
エンカノミヤでしか意味をなさないため
Deep sea
渡
healing
積島には引
arts.
き継がれなかったのです。負傷者の手当てがあるため私はここを離れられませんが、できればその罪という巫女に会ってみたかったですね。
いえ、たとえサンゴノミヤ様の手が空いていたとしても、あそこに行かせるわけにはいき
Oh
ません。
shit.
今のエンカノミヤは非常に危険です。旅人とパイモンのような無双な
And
勇士でなければ
Paimon, stop.
足を踏み入れられないほどになっています。
そうだそうだ。オイラたちにしかできないことだぞ。
Not her buttering up Paimon.
これまで何度も協力してきた仲ですからね。
It's
そ
true.
の罪という方について他に何か情報はありますか？
顔の上半分を覆う奇妙なお面をしていたという報告があ
Oh
ります。
great, another masked shrine maiden.
そうで
This
すか。
means that it's automatically going to be depressing, considering the last masked maiden we dealt with an Inazuma World quest.
サンゴノミヤ様、私の愚見を申しますと、罪は非常に有効的です。そして厳しい状況下にある今、現段階では悪意の有無を疑い、盟友か否かを推し量る余地はありません。
はい、理解しています。負傷兵を撤退させるため、すでにメカジキ一番隊にはエンカノミヤへ向かうよう待機させています。旅人さんも彼らと同行していただけますか？メカジキ一番隊があなたをエンカノミヤの中央拠点へと送り届けてくれるはずです。それとこれを持っておいてください。
What's this? Ooh.
これって何かの破片か？
ただの装飾品です。もし選択に迫られた時はそれが助けとなってくれることでしょう。
Looked like a piece of like a medallion or something.
それは
渡積島にとってもう必要のないも
Oh,
の
it's
で
a
す。
big deal?
それに残りの2つのかけらはエンカノミヤにあります。
Oh, it is a
も
piece of
し縁があ
something.
ればこれを機に再び一箇所に集めることができるかもしれません。
かしこまりました。では、緊急救助任務、3回道合いの祭り。
Three realms
これより開始します。
gateway offering.
はい、あなた方にはいろいろと迷惑をおかけしてしまいすみません。負傷兵の手当てをしなければなりませんので、私はここで失礼します。準備ができたら上野のところへ行ってください。
I'm so excited for this. I loved Enkanomiya. It was so sad, but it was so rich in lore and context that I
その類のものでしょう。
didn't have at all. before about like pre-Archons, like way at the beginning of the timeline. So
暗闇に包まれしエンカノミヤ。
hell yeah!
そこへ向かう準備はできましたでしょうか。はい。では、私についてきてください。
Okay, so I'm assuming that we would have already had to like do the world quest because we're like just teleporting straight in. Oh, whoa. Those branches are new. Those were not there for me.
もし機会があるなら、
Unless I'm crazy.
来年メカジキ一番隊はフライム生態管理の任を申請しようかと思います。エンカノミヤに行くよりもフライムの方がよっぽどマシですので。
Damn, he's like, I want to get out of
カ
here.
チャカチャと音を立てながら追いかけてくるなんて、そんな魔物恐ろしすぎます。
Oh, not the specter, or not the lectors, just the rune guards?
ひとまずこの場所なら安全です。当面の間危険が及ぶことはないでしょう。
Any more danger from here on out? I sincerely doubt that, my
やあ
guy.
君たち。
あなたは A3 番隊の変わり者で有
The
名な
odd guy?
矢部さんでしたよね。
What an
お
introduction.
前なんだか他の兵士と違ってかなり元気そうだな。
そうかい？実は小さい頃から怪談とか怖い話が大好きでね。エンカノミヤに来ていいものを見ることができたおかげかな。
It's essentially being in like,
なんて刺激的なんだ。
it's like rummaging around like ancient Greek
全く理解できないん
ruins
だ
is like the
けど
equivalent in terms of like world timeline or like Egyptian ruins. Like these ruins are hella old. Like some of them are like, oh, you know what? Let's not get on a tangent.
わざわざ危険なことに首を突っ込まないでほしいのですが、いざという時、あなたを助けに行かなければならないでしょ。
まあまあ、それについてはまた。あそこの階段の上に臨時拠点があるのは知ってるかい？まだ行ってないんだったら、まずはそこで休むといい。
Alrighty. The Eve. Okay.
あそこに怪我人の手当てをしてる巫女がいるぞ。きっとあの人が罪だな。
Not the little wiggle walk. I appreciate them not cutting off dialogue though.
お二人とも今までの方々とは違うようですが、あなたたちは人間ですか？
Oh shit!
もちろん
Are you human?
人間だぞ。渡積島の人じゃないけど。
Well, I don't know if he's or the traveler is human.
あなたは人間の子供ですか？
A hatchling? A human
人間は
hatchling?
成長すると飛行能力を失うのかと思ってしまいました。深海ビシャップの子供が色を見分けられ、大人になるとできなくなる
Wait,
の
lose the
と同
color
じように。
This to see color?
深海ビシャップについて詳しいんだな。
あなたたちどうして私の名を？
お前が助けた負傷兵から聞いたんだ。
なるほど。
What an interesting mask.
私はメカジキ一番隊の隊長代理を務めている上野と申します。負傷者の避難とこのエンカノミヤで起きている異常の調査を手伝うため来ました。メカジキ一番隊は少し休憩を取った後に行動をするつもりです。ひとまず私は
So
ここで失礼
there
いたしま
are
す。
possibly other civilizations that were down here with the Enkanomians when everything fell to keep things general. So is she snake masked? Okay, so she could be
一体何が起きてるんだ？
from
原因を知ってるのか？
すべては虚空から
one
の
of the
侵入による
other
影響です。白
the
夜国の
void.
住
Oh
民は
shit, that's
この世に3つの世界があると考えています。それがビシャップ界、人間界、巨界です。 エンカノミヤの暗闇は虚
The
空も
void
アビス
bit,
によ
yep.
るもの。ビシャップも人間も耐えられるものではありません。
でも深海ビシャップは暗闇が好きなんじゃない
The
のか？
Abyss is different though.
深海ビシャップはただ光を嫌っているだけに過ぎません。この深淵において光は人間の活動を意味するものですので。
Anyway, what I was trying to say.
書物の中でビシャップ界は公海と呼ばれています。
Primordial elemental
純粋
beings.
で原始的
The
な
light
元
realm.
素生物の世界という意味です。そしてこの
Juicy
公海の七王は
lore. Seven sovereigns of the light
元素力の
realm.
頂点に立つ者たち。元素七流です。
つゆ子が今回の任務を三回道あえの祭りって言ったの
Yup.
こういう理由からだったのか。
三回道あえの祭り。確かに事実に沿っています。
Triangle
しかし
gateway.
より正確に表すなら三角道あえの祭りというべきです。巨海の黒霧の根源はエンカノミヤの境で三角を描くように立つ口頭にあるのですから。
その3つの口頭って前に試練で言ったところだよな。
言っ
Mm-hmm.
たことがあるのですか？
Yep.
話すと長くなるけどな。
そうですか。
Okay, I'm sorry. I'm gonna pause for like 5 seconds. I needed to finish what I was saying before. I just didn't want to talk over her because she was like dropping like lore and stuff. But the snake mask could mean that she is from one of those other civilizations. Because there was Orobashi, right? Who was part of the whole Watatsumi. I have so much more context on him and on Raiden, actually, which I will talk about at the end. Just when I talk about my general Enka thoughts. But she could be, there was another snake god, Ouroboros, that was worshipped down here. And it doesn't specify, it just says snake masked. So it could be Orobashi or Ouroboros. She could be, since she's not from Watatsumi, right? Because Kokomi was like, I don't know who that is. She could be someone from one of those other civilizations. It should have been desolate down here, but you never know. Like the Watatsumi people only come down to like this specific location to get very specific ingredients and then get the hell out. They're not down here like doing lots of exploring outside of Enkanomiya's ruins or where the light reaches, right? So I'm wondering if she's from one of those other civilizations somehow. Maybe there's like small, almost like nomadic down here. I don't know. But she's very mysterious. I'm very excited to figure out what her story is.
そういえば
No more pausing. I'll try not
君
to.
はどうしてそんな妙なお面をかぶってるんだ？
これは醜さを隠すためです。成長の最中、私は様々な出来事に遭いました。隠さなければ人々を怖がらせてしまうのではと不安なのです。これのせいで私を信用することが
We've dealt with
難
like
しい
a
の
lot
で
of
しょうか。
masked shrine maidens at this point.
違うんだ。罪は怪我人を助けてくれてるし、きっとみんなも感謝してる。ただ
Oh yeah.
言っていることがよく理解できないのですが、とにかくエンカノミヤの暗闇を解決してくれるのであれば、私が道案内をしましょう。もしあなたたちが私を信用してくれたらの話ですが、私は負傷者の手当てをしています。それから新しく来た人たちから状況を聞きたいので、ここで失礼します。
どうするんだ？おいら罪を信じたいけど、とりあえず負傷者たちから話を聞いてみようぜ。
Alright.
こんにちは。どうかしたかい？
お面をかぶったツミっていう巫女がいるだろ？おいらたちその人のことについて聞きたいんだ。
さては、彼女がつけている奇妙な面が気になってるんだろう。なら俺に聞いて正解だ。
What, you like to gossip?
ツミさんに助けられた人の中でも俺はかなり最初の方でな。
Oh.
その時から不思議に思ってたんだ。どうして塩化宮の失われた儀式を知る巫女があんなお面をかぶっているんだろうってな。そこでその謎をはっきりさせるため、俺はしつこく聞いてみた。
それでどうだったんだ？
ああ、その時はまだ人が少なかったからか、彼女はお面の下を少し見せてくれてな。おかしなところはほとんどなかった。ただ彼女はある一部分を隠すためだけにお面をしていたんだ。彼女の瞳孔は縦に伸び、蛇のような細長い目をしていたんだよ。
それを見てお前は驚かなかったのか？
まあ普通ならビビるだろうな。でも渡積島には誰もが知る伝説があるんだ。いや、伝説というよりも史実か。渡積大神の第一の眷属、渡積の三使一族だ。言い伝えによると、その者たちは半人半者だったらしい。かつて我々の祖先に力を貸し、深海ビシャップを討伐したと言われている。今は歴史の中に消えてしまったが、ツミさんは蛇のような瞳を持っている。だから自然と信頼感が湧いてきてな。俺はきっとその一族が危機を察知し、戻ってきてくれたんだと思ってる。
なるほどな。
Interesting. Kind
こ
of
の難
like
しいことはよくわからんが、ツミさんは信頼できる人だと俺は思うぞ。
like the kitsune? It's not that far-fetched. Not in Inazuma, at least.
やあ、何か用かい？
お面をかぶったツミっていう巫女がいるだろ？オイラたちその人のことについて聞きたいんだ。
なんだ、罪のことか。具体的に何が聞きたいんだ？ちなみに好きな人のことや結婚しているかは聞いたことあるが、何も答えてくれなかったぞ。
Sir!
そういうんじゃなくて、罪に何か怪しい点とかないか？
怪しさがあることで美しい女性はより魅力が増すものだ。謎めいた、つかみどころのない幻のような感じ。
Alright. Like, you're not being helpful in the slightest. Not the person bonking him with his curse, with their cursor. I'm so dead.
強いて言うなら、彼女がつけている2つの装飾品が気になるな。一つは彼女のお面。彼女がなぜあれを選んだのかはわからないが、ちょっと怖いだろ？それと、さっき僕に包帯を巻いてくれたとき、首飾りがちらりと見えたんだ。割れた何かを紐で結び、それを首飾りにしているようだった。まさか彼女、すでに生涯の伴侶を見つけているのか？
Oh my god. So she must have one of the other pieces
それはあり
then.
えるかもな。
Interesting.
とりあえずお前は早く目を覚まし
If
た
it's
方がい
strictly
いと
a
思うぞ。
Watatsumi, like Enkanomiya relic, then she's probably not from one of the other civilizations, right? Probably dissuage that theory.
邪魔しないでおこう。
Bro is flat on his face over
これ
there.
だけ聞ければ十分だな。どこか他の場所で情報を整理しようぜ。
To
スミは
recap.
部屋の中にいるし、こそこそ話しているのがバレたら気まずいからな。
どうでしょう。決まりましたか？
もう少し考えさせてくれ。
もちろんです。恐怖で決心がつかないとしても仕方のないことですから。
確か兵士たちから聞けた情報は、罪のお面の下には蛇のような目が隠されている。それと渡積島の人々はそれをOrobashiの眷属の特徴だと思っている。あいつの行動を見ると確かに渡積島の人々を守ってるよな。それに塩化の宮を覆う黒霧を払うため努力しているみたいなことも言ってた。オイラは信頼できる人だと思うぞ。
I mean,
じゃあ戻って罪に 協力することを伝えよう。
We don't know everything about her, so I feel like always keeping that in mind and dealing with a healthy dose of caution is a good idea. Even if she does seem to be assisting, you know? Like, what sent her? Where'd she come from? Is she alive even? Is she a specter? Like, is she from the ley lines? Like, is she alive? I don't know.
助かります。ではこちらをお受け取りください。これはボクソの箱。以前解決策を模索していた時に大日に見つけたものです。実は戦闘儀式の方法や必要な道具も大日みこしから見つけました。
Human writing.
私が人間の文字を読むことができよかったです。
Okay.
お前が人間の文字を読めるのは当たり前だろ。もしかして
Yeah,
古代変化
that's what I was just
読め
thinking.
るってことか。
いえ、何でもありません。宴会祝湯修正の文字が読めると言った方が正しいでしょう。それが古代の文字か現代のものかは分かりませんが、気にしないでください。それよりも話を戻しましょう。このボクソの箱は光を採取できます。それにより小さな範囲ではありますが、巨海の暗闇を払うことが可能です。また黒霧の加護を得た魔物がいたら、ボクソの箱を使うことでそれを打ち消すことができます。ちょうど拠点の近くにそういった魔物がいるようです。ボクソの箱の力を試してみてください。私は後から追いかけますので。
So,
そこに行って魔物を退治してきてください。
so
ボクソの箱の力を使うことをお忘れなく。
her being able to read,
黒霧の動向を確認
she
して
said, I don't know if
す
it's
ぐに向かい
ancient
ま
or
す。
modern. I know Orobashi taught Enkanomians Inuzuman culture and like language to try and prepare them to bring them to the surface originally before Watatsumi Island existed. So it makes somewhat it makes some kind of sense that that possibly, if we're to believe that she's a familiar of his, right? That she could make sense of ancient Enkanomian writing, right? One HP motherfucker, what's going on? Oh, the darkness thing, okay.
かなりの腕をお持ちのようですね。
当然だろ。この間決死サンゴを取ってきた勇者もオイラたちだからな。
まさかあなたたちが。
Is she mad or
いきなりどうしたんだ。
surprised?
いいえ、何でもありません。あなたたちならエンカノミアの3つの境を沈めることができるでしょう。
Orbashi wanted them to take the blood coral branches, so it's not like we were like stealing. That's what he wanted us to do, or not us specifically,
ワタ
but
ツミ御陵祭りの本質は邪神の生命力を使うことにより2番目の眷属三号王中を強制的に目覚めさせることにあるそうです。
oh,
この眷属は荒れ狂う元素力を人間世界の安定した元素へと転換する分解生物。巨大なサンゴは王中族が邪神の血によって蘇ったことを象徴しています。そして今三号王中の大規模な蘇りによりエンカノミアの生態環境は一変しています。
oh
言
shit.
われてみればそうだな。黒霧とか魔物のことを抜きにしても見たことのない植物や鉱物
Oh,
が急に出て
interesting.
きたような気がするぞ。
So the familiars essentially help the process
状況は
to
さらに複雑です。巨海の黒霧に抑圧されたせいで公海と人海の事象が停止してしまっているようなのです。
oh
黒霧を払い変化を継続させるためにはボクソの箱の力を使う必要があります。ボクソの箱を使いどうか問題を解決してください。
well,
私
how
は
else
そ
would
こ
we
の
solve
彫像
it?
の下であなたからの連絡を待っています。
Okay,
私はそこの彫像の下であなたからの連絡を待っています。
Interesting. Okay, so it seems that the familiars help break down the pure body material, right? To be used by the humans for like nourishment for their ecological stuff, which is what Orobashi wanted. He gave up his body for. Interesting. And so it's also awakening other things. Okay, we don't need to watch this, although I'm sure they slayed with all these strong ladies. Okay, there we go. And what are they checking for? Elemental energy?
ボクソの箱の扱いはもう大丈夫そうですね。では、この度の最終目標を説明しましょう。先ほども申した通り、私たちはエンカノミヤの境にある3つの高等へと行く必要があります。
Abyss
あの塔
adherent.
はアビスに連なる者たちが伝統と形式にのっとり修復をしたもの。巨海の塔です。
アビスに連なるものってまさか。
あの者たちは偽りに満ちています。どのようにしてエンカノミヤ3階と3つの境のことを知ったのかは分かりません。
Abyssal
ただアビス
technology.
の技術により彼らはあれをもたらしました。その後巨海の塔を利用してアビスの力はばらまかれました。これはサンゴ王虫と
Oh
深海ビシャッ
no.
プにひどい苦痛をもたらすものです。果たしてこのようなことに何の意味があるのかは分かりません。私たちにとってアビスとは猛毒そのもの。しかし彼らにとっては甘美な珍種なのかもしれません。おそらく人をもてあそび裏切るのが好きな者たちなのでしょう。
やっぱりあいつらで間違いなさそうだ。
おや、知っているのですか？どうやら私たちにとって共通の敵のようですね。
ああ、
黒霧を払うには巨海の塔の最上階まで登らなければなりません。その後高海のタガネを起動し、高海の力を取り入れる必要があります。人海の地脈、高海の元素本流、そして巨海の暗流。それらすべてが強大な地。それが
Yes,
エンカノ
this
ミヤで
is
す。
so very
私
true.
は書物に記された通りに儀式を行っただけに過ぎません。ただ戦闘の核となるのは目の前にあるこの人の像のようです。これに公開の力が込められた結晶を奉納すればボクソの箱を強化できるはずです。
Oh.
またここで休憩を取ればボクソの箱の力を回復することができるでしょう。
Interesting.
それからこちらの手書きの地図をお受け取りください。これには3つの塔の位置が記してあります。探索は段階的に進めた方がいいので、まずはこの塔から調べることをお勧めします。
Oh, so she marked
私が
them
お
in
役に
order.
立てるのはここまでです。あなた方のご武運を祈ります。
Ooh. That was so cool, that screen, dude. God, I wish I'd been here to play this. Damn it! God damn it. I'm so sad I didn't get to play this myself. Oh, bless this person. Bless this person clicking through dialogue. Thank you. Awesome. Alright, this is the first tower, right? Oh my god.
し、これで登れるぞ。
I wonder what these symbols mean. Like, are they... I know there's been a lot of sigils in Enkanomiya. So I'm wondering if these are more of those sigils. They don't look like some of the same sigils. Maybe I'm wrong. Whoa.
でも、棒をつなげた時に放たれたアビスの力は消えてないっぽいな。黒霧が大地に流れて周囲に変化が起きたみたいだ。時間があったら見に行った方がいいかもな。
Oh wow. So these were like full-blown puzzles then. My goodness. Wow, look at this purple darkness, dude. This is like abyssal power at its peak. Holy shit. So I'm seeing two of the same sigils and then a new one on the third one is new. And the second, there's that circle one. So there's 4 different sigils. 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh man, look, it's coming. Look at the way it's like the cloud of it up in the sky. That's crazy. Or the top of the cavern at least. And you know, the imagery is so interesting to me because the coral branch, like, it's a branch imagery, like a tree imagery. And the branches at the top of the tower is also like roots, upside down roots. We've seen, I think it was it Venti's? It was like, I think in a Mondstadt, like, art montage video thing. Where there was like there was some imagery of an upside down tree or something like that. And we're seeing that again. Sorry, that was like very obscure knowledge plucked from the recesses of my brain, but I swear to God it was like a Mondstadt thing. It was very brief, but I remember talking about it in a video, like I paused. I'm pretty sure it was Venti's video. I don't remember. But the upside down roots is the image that I remember seeing. And we're seeing it again here, which is very interesting. Ley lines are kind of like roots as well. In Inazuma with Raiden's, like, remember her whole quest was about the ley line roots, so... And the Sakura tree as well. Being a tree and roots that the roots connected through to another time, another plane of existence, so... I don't know, it's very interesting that those roots are like upside down like that. Or maybe they're just branches, not roots. I don't know. And like the statue to the left there is holding what looks like a branch. The coral, maybe it's reminiscent of the coral branch. Orobashi? I don't know.
ほとんどの方はすでに避難済みのようです。ただ、少々予想外なことも起きています。二人とも私についてきてくれませんか？
Oh boy.
大日みこしの中に暗闇が。
本来であれば今頃エンカノミヤは全て元通りになっているはずでした。ただ残念なことに今は最も危険な場所へと変わり果てています。なぜこうなったのか、そしてどうしたらいいのか私にも分かりません。しかし黒幕がどこにいるかだけはお二人に伝えられます。こうなってしまった以上黒幕と対峙し計画を全て吐かせる以外に方法はないでしょう。
Okay, I'm so sorry. I said I wouldn't pause again. This is I'm gonna try not to, okay? But the roots, she's saying, unless I'm talking and it's about to be broken down in a second, but the overload of where it should be quote unquote purest, right? In the center with the roots and everything. Didn't they say in Inazuma, part of the reason why during Raiden's quest, the problem with the ley lines is that they were like overloaded. They were like trying to over cleanse. And part of the whole Inazuma world, a lot of the Inazuma world quests revolved around the idea of you have to ritually cleanse the Sakura tree, the roots, the ley lines. You have to cleanse them periodically because they overload with like taking in the corruption, right, from the land. And if you don't cleanse it, then it builds up, and where things should be most pure at the center, at the roots, it's where it's most corrupt because it's just like overlogged. And so I'm wondering if that's like a similar situation going on right now, is that the purity of the light is like trying to over cleanse everything else because the other towers are pushing all the toxic shit away and it's got nowhere else to go. So it's the roots are trying to cleanse what's left, and it's just overworked, or not overworked, but you know what I mean? That's my theory. It's probably about to be broken down in an entirely different way. But I wonder if that's something that's at play here. It's so hard not to talk when it comes to this stuff because it's like there's so much speculation. Vortex.
かの者がアビスの力を必要とするとき、
Abyssal
かすかな
energy.
流れを起こすのでしょう。
Maybe Enjo just did
あ
some
れは
weird
とても
shit.
危険な存在です。ただのビシャップとは比べ物にならない力を持っています。
I've been waiting for a chance to let loose.
そう言っていただけて助かります。では、あなたにお任せします。私の推測では、彼は図書館の近くにいるはずです。
Oh boy, the library.
予想外と言うべきか、予想通りと言うべきか。この暗闇の中でも突き進み、霧を払って俺の目の前に現れるとは。そんなことが可能なのはお前くらいしかいないと思っていたよ。だがまさか奴らと手を組むとはな。
What do you mean didn't expect it?
また喋りながら時間を稼ぐつもりだな。
そうか。お前たちは本当に知らないようだ。この俺を見て頭に血が昇るのもわかる。ここにたどり着くまで長いこと駆け回ってきたんだろう。だというのにまだそんな体力が残っているとはさすがに厄介だ。軽く体を動かすとしよう。俺の言葉に耳を貸したくなるまでな。
Fuck you. This ass.
岩の重さ補助力を結晶せよ。ふっよっそれへい粉々よそれそら
Let's go, strong lady team.
あれ狂いなさいご安心をはっせい
I'm just making sure there's no like dialogue during the fight because sometimes sometimes they do that.
結晶せよ行きますはっ目には目をふっへい
There we go. Okay, there was no dialogue. Oh, then I'm not finished.
瞳孔が細く長い女は自分のことを何と言っていた？
どうしてお前がそのことを知ってるんだ？
その女の名前を言ってみろ。
Don't say it, Paimon.
自分のことを
Oh my god! Why the fuck would Paimon say the
トカ
name?
ゲの分際で人間の真似をしやがるとは。
No fucking way. No
お
fucking...
前も分かっているだろう。深海ビシャップは賢く進化が早い種であることを。
No
そ
way.
して1000年も前から。
No way she's a Vishap. No way.
それがビシャップ
But
マンに
but
関す
that
る
goes in line with the
伝説だ。
tales about the familiars.
ビシャップマン？なんかオイラが考えたあだ名みたい
Well,
な。
we know that like changing form is
エ
possible.
ンカノミヤにはこのような伝説があった。深海ビシャップは迫害を受け、生き延びるために新たな進化を始め
Imitated the victors.
勝者の姿形を真似するようになったと。やがて瞳孔を除けば人間と全く区別のつかない種族ビシャップマンが現れた。その者たちはエンカノミヤに入り、
What?
人間の居場所を奪ったとされている。どうだ？心当たりがあるだろう？
罪の動向も縦長だったって言ってたよな。
Or he could just be lying.
日差しが強いところではトカゲの瞳孔は細長い縦状になる。まさにあいつがお前らを裏切った証拠と言えるだろう。
でもずっとオイラたちを助けてくれたぞ。
Even if
あ
they're
いつは俺へ復讐するためにお前たちを利用しただけに過ぎない。
well, you betrayed us too, so
俺
fuck
も
you.
お前を裏切ったからな。
And you're an abyss lector, so double fuck you.
ビシャップと同盟を結んでいたことがある。奴らの目的は精鋭を大日みこしへと送り、
They're
囚われて
captive
いる同
kin.
族を救うこと。その目的を果たしてやるため、俺はエンカノミヤ全体を黒霧で覆ってやった。その見返りとして俺たちアビス教団が手にしたのが領地を通る許可だ。それから奴らは3つの塔の
Wait,
改造の
who's
ため俺
captive?
に力を貸した。しかし奴らは予期していなかったのだろう。アビスの黒霧が元素生物にとって恐ろしい猛毒であるというのを。
だからビシャップたちは裏切られたと思ってるのか？
Well, he did.
俺自身
He
も
had no
裏切ったと
intention
認め
of-
ている。ビシャップがアビスの力を受けてなお飛び跳ねているなど、アビス教団にとって恥ずべきことだからな。
He had full intention of fucking them over anyway.
今の状況を説明してやろう。あの女はお前たちを利用するだけ利用した後、手のひらを返すはずだ。大日みこしで三号宇宙を抑え込み、暗闇を作り出してビシャップを擁護するだろう。今頃は深いところに潜り、囚われた仲間を救出する準備をしているんじゃない
Oh,
か。
oh.
そして決死サンゴの源は
The twin Vishaps down there.
深海ビシャップたちはかわいそうだけど、でも
わだつみ島の未来を守りたいと思うの
No, no, no. He's twisting the story. We cannot. He's probably telling half truths right
俺が
now.
残しておいた装置で光の道を導き、大日みこしの暗闇を払うといい。
お前の話はもう信用しないぞ。
Yeah.
そうか。だが他に選択の余地はあるのか？どのみち今回俺には何の収穫もない。だがそんなことはどうでもいいことだ。俺は教団の中でも早くに過ぎないからな。天下のそばをうろちょろしてる奴らとは違って、俺はいつだってどうでもいいことにこだわる。さて、時間稼ぎはこれで十分だ。もう会うこともないだろう。俺は先に失礼させてもらうぞ。
それとこれは以前大日みこしで手に入れたものだ。選別としてお前にくれてやる。
これってココミがくれたものとセットなんじゃって、そんなこと気にしてる場合じゃなかった。また逃げられた。もう
I mean, I knew he was stalling that whole time he was
た
talking.
とえあいつの言うことに筋が通って
Okay, I'm sorry. Pausing one more time. But the waiting for a portal, is that what he was doing? I'm so sorry, but the way that the Abyss, like our sister, our okay, well, for this, since he is Aether, his sister, but for us, I play Lumine, our brother, Aether, using the portals to teleport in and out of points of time and space. Okay, Enjo waiting? Did he call a portal? Like, was he summoning one? Does someone have to send one to him? Does he have to link to somebody? Like, what was he was stalling for sure, and he was telling us all this information to buy himself time, right? So does that mean the portals have to be does he have to wait for them? Like, what? Like, I'm so curious about that. Like, did he have, like, why was he waiting? Why did he have to wait? Was there, like, what's the process of calling one of those portals? You know what I mean? God. Okay. It's kind of not this, it's not like super relevant to like the main problem, but the fact that he had to wait and he was like, oh, okay, it's time now. Like, what do you mean? Like, were you alerted that the portal was going to show up? Like, how did that work? I don't know. Maybe more abyssal technology that we have not learned about yet, but I just found that was kind of interesting to note.
でもそう簡単に信じない方がいいはずだ。まずは罪に話を聞いてみよう。
And I'm pretty sure he was talking in half
本当に
truths
いなくなってる。
about
ここに
the
来るまでに
Vishap
見逃
people.
してたりしないよな。落ち込むな。しっかりしろ。少なくとも渡積島の兵士はほとんど撤退できた。仮にビシャップが現れても誰も怪我することはないはずだ。あいつの言う通りになることを考えると腹が立つけど、ここはオイラたちがやるしかない。光の道を導こう。
Ugh, this is so uncomfortable. Like, what if it just like... Oh, shit.
オイラ驚いたぞ。本当にこれで解決できるなんて。どうやら今回はオイラたちを騙してなかったみたいだな。
It's always been like half truths.
まあ、あいつの話を聞く限りそうだけど。ねっておい、どうしてあいつを理解した気になってんだよ。そんなのダメだぞ。これで
That imagery just now was
大
like
日は再び開かれた。
beautiful.
早く下に行ってみよう。
And investigate.
逃げ道はありません。
お、これに乗って降りよう。
Oh, is this what unlocked the boss? During the event? Because this was this okay. Oh man, I wish I could have played this myself.
この美しい風景もそばに誰もいない以上、私の普遍を引き立たせるだけ。
Because this was different, obviously, for me.
ビシャップだ。見ただけで凶暴だってわかる。多分群れの中でも精鋭クラスのはずだ。けどやっぱり罪の姿は見当たらないな。
Okay, we don't need to watch this whole thing. Okay.
よく見ると幼いビシャップはいないみたいだ。もう救出されたのかも。下に深海ビシャップがこんなにたくさんいるなんて。あい いつが言ってたことは本当だったんだ。ツミって本当にビシャップマンなのか？でも全然姿が見当たらないぞ。
I don't know.
どこに行ったんだ？あまり考え
Because
て
we
て
can,
もしょうがないよな。
like, we know that
上に戻ろう。
I don't know actually what it takes to change form, because like Zhongli can do it, Venti can do it, but only Archons we've seen been able to do it, like change
大日みこ
form,
しの前で一体何やって
like
るん
from a
だ？
dragon to a
戻ら
person.
れたのですね。どうですか？救出は成功しましたか？
幼いビシャップはもう助けたぞ。でも年を取って弱ってたビシャップはオイラたちが精鋭を倒した後に水の中に隠れちゃったから。スミ、お前本当にビシャップなのか？
余計な説明をする気はありません。私はあなたたちと会話できますが、こ
Oh
れで理
shit.
解しました。人とのつながりは必ず裏切りで終わってしまうことを、私たち二つの種族は殺し合う運命なの
Oh
です。
shit.
私が離れる前にこの塔を破壊します。それ以上近づかないでください。それから妙なことも考えないように。この口頭は私の願いを聞いてくれるようです。私が望めば私のために光と闇を切り替えてくれます。その気になれば私の目の前で瓦解もするでしょう。拳を握りしめる程度のたったそれだけの思いでこのビシャップを苦しめてきた建物を破壊できます。しかしどうしても心を鬼にすることができません。
こんなの決死サンゴを失うよりも辛いぞ。何か方法はないのか？
Oh, the
これはまさか。
what symbol is that? Two snakes?
3匹の蛇が絡み合
Oh,
った
three?
首飾り？
この首飾りは私が物心ついた時からずっと持っていたものです。なぜあなたが持つ2つのかけらとぴったり合うの
Wait,
でしょう
Coco
か？
had this.
そんなバカなことが一体何が言いたいのですか？まさか
おいらさっぱり理解できないぞ。こっちはココミの首飾りで、そっちは大日みこしのもの。そしてツミの首飾りは子供の頃から持ってたもので。
私はビシャップと共に育ちました。そばにはこの首飾りと、それから書物の入った箱がいくつかあっただけ。ただそれのおかげで人間の言葉と文字を学ぶことができました。しばらくしてエンカノミヤには人間がいなくなりました。誰一人残らずに。つい最近まで人間との接点はありませんでした。書物に書かれた内容や意味を知ったのもつい最近のことです。
ツミ、
人間の書物に私には理解できない熟語がありました。しかし私は今になってそれを理解できたようです。人は生まれた場所に属し、獣は餌を得られる場所に属する。私はビシャップであり人間ではありません。だから私は帰るべき場所へ帰ります。大日みこし、もう私にとってはさまつなこと。いずれまた我々は必ず帰ってきます。
ツミ、言っちゃったな。
Oh
最後
my
どう
god.
して急に考えを変えたんだろう。ああ、そうだな。この状況を予想してたから、こ コミは首飾りをく
Wait,
れたの
that
かも
means
しれ
that
ない。
Kokomi knows about the Vishap people?
ひとま
I
ず
mean, that makes sense. She's the priestess. She didn't say anything to us, though. Maybe she wasn't sure. Okay, maybe she'll tell us.
帰ってきたのですね。戻ってきた兵士たちからの事情は聞いています。あなたは罪という巫女と協力することで黒霧を消すことに成功した。ただ突如大日みこしに異変が起きた。そうですよね。
ああ、だいたいそんな感じだな。でもそれからまた妙なことが起きたんだ。
そのようなことが。
ごめんな、ココミ。オイラたちココミからもらった首飾りを人にあげちゃったんだ。
気にしないでください。前にも言いましたが、もう渡積島にとって必要のないものですから。あれはもともと渡積大神がエンカノミヤの役人を整理し制度改革の際に使っていたものです。その3つの首飾りはそれぞれ大日みこし、産後宮の血脈、そして渡積の見つかいに託されました。村人、官僚、紳士の3者が互いに監視し合うことを意図していたのでしょう。しかし現在村人の子孫を除いて他の2勢力は廃れ、この首飾りも役割を失いました。
さっき渡積の見つかいって言ったけど、罪が渡積神の使者だと思ってる兵士もいるみたいだぞ。トカゲも縦長の動向を持ってるだろ。それでオイラたち全員勘違いしちゃったんだ。
いえ、そうとも限りません。渡積の見つかいは邪神の眷属であることを表すため、そのほとんどが半人半者の姿をしています。しかし進化の後期に入ると渡積の見つかいはその瞳以外人間と海2つの
Hold on. Vassals of Watatsumi typically take on half human, half snake form, symbolizing that they are the familiars of our serpent god. This is information we were told earlier, but then we learned that they're not actually half snake, they're actually just Vishaps who can switch forms, right? Who can take on a human form. At least they used to. Over time, the vassals gradually became identical to humans, all except for the pupils of their eyes. So does that mean that the half snake, half people familiars were actually a thing, but then the Vishaps like infiltrated? Because Enjo said that they infiltrated high into the ranks of like Watatsumi and Enkanomiya, or not Watatsumi, Enkanomiya culture. They were like high ranking, so maybe they slowly disguised themselves as the divine vassals instead of the actual vassals. Or am I like overthinking it? Is that what happened? Because Enkanomiya, like this, we're talking about like a lot of years of history. So like, it's not like this is just like, oh, it's 200 years. Like, no, we're talking about like really long periods of time where this infiltration, this slow gradual switch could have happened. I'm not sure. Does I thought Kokomi knew about the Vishap people? I thought that's what was being implied. So I think I'm just confusing myself. I think I'm confusing myself. Also, can I point out, she said that their eyes, the pupils of their eyes, are what identify them as different, right? As the divine vassals. Can we look at Kokomi's pupils, please? I know she's one of the three lines, right? The Enkanomiya line. So maybe that's why she has like special eyes, is because she's not technically of common human descent. And we know that she's like the heiress of the deep, right? But I think it's really interesting that it's clear in her eyes that they're very different. They're not slitted at all, but they are very not human looking. Anyway, we're gonna unpause, sorry.
むしろビシャップマンや地中リザードマンというのは小説の中にしか出てこないただの設定です。
Oh.
産後宮の機密文
I
書
spent all that time talking and she's just like, they're fake.
実はありません。
だったら罪はビシャップじゃないのか？
渡積大神が渡積島を作るため力を使い果たした後、 その力は次第に弱まりました。
Oh.
ですので綿摘みの見つかいが誕生することはもうありません。最後に記録されている見つかいはビシャップと人間両者と交流ができ橋渡しとなることが期待された見つかいです。彼女は幼い頃世話係の巫女とともにエンカノミアの境でビシャップに襲われ、
Oh, like raised by wolves kind of a thing. Raised by
されて
Vishaps?
います。多くの人は彼女が亡くなったと考えています。ただ中にはビシャップたちに育てられているのではと思っている人もいるようです。
But what's with her eyes
一
then?
族は綿摘みの民に恩があります。ビシャップと綿摘み島の領土をめぐる争いがなくなった今、その人が帰るべき場所を見つけられることを
Wait, so why her eyes
心から祈るばか
like
りです。
slit like that then?
それが罪の生い立ちだったのか。
Am I missing something?
しかし決死サンゴの原理がそのようなものだったとは、私はサンゴノミヤの荒人神の巫女として焦土化に対抗する新たな手段を考えねばなりませんね。とはいえあなたのおかげで焦土化の問題はひとまず解決しました。これから数十年の間綿摘み島は平和が続くことでしょう。改めてあなたたちに心から感謝いたします。
Wow, okay. Okay, let's talk about it. Okay, let's start with Tsumi. Tsumi? That TSU sound is difficult for me to pronounce correctly, but I think it's Tsumi. Tsumi? She is so interesting. I loved everything about this event. First of all, I love Enkanomiya. All the lore we got about prehistoric Teyvat, essentially, where we got some information post Archons and like about the primordial one, and we'll get more into that when I talk about after the character log. I'm going to talk about my thoughts on the Enkanomiya world quest that I have, because I do have separate thoughts that aren't necessarily congruent with this specific event. But I'll talk about Tsumi, and I'll talk a little about Coco and just my general thoughts on this event specifically, and then we'll talk about Enka. But how? Fuck. I love that how I originally was like, oh my god, what if she's from like one of the other civilizations? Like, I was so ready for the craziest lore, because I'm fresh off of the Enkanomiya world quest, so I have so many possibilities in my brain when I was like, okay, this is an event in Enkanomiya, like, bitch, be ready. I was ready to be thrown curveballs. Like, I was so ready to just assume the most complicated plot twists ever. But the fact that we still apparently is what Kokomi was saying, is that she was the last of the vassals. Obviously, when Orobashi died, he could no longer produce vassals, divine vassals, to help the Enkanomiya people, which makes sense. But the idea of Vishap people, see, now this is where I'm stuck, because Enjo was talking about that. And while I think he speaks in half-truths, but it's interesting that Kokomi said Vishap people are fiction, because there's no record of them in the Sangonomiya, like, records, ancient records. There's no record of them. But Enjo said that they infiltrated, which means there wouldn't be, if they did their job well, their infiltration well, there wouldn't be any official records of Vishap people, because that's not what they would have wanted. And so I found that very interesting. I'm also wondering, okay, so the timeline is a little wonky. There's like lots of speculation, since we don't have as informative and mind-boggling as the books in Enkanomiya that we read. And the information that they share, there's so much room for interpretation and speculation, because we're not given dates, we're not given names, and so a lot of the timeline stuff is kind of just up to your best guess. There's like a fine line between what's factually presented in the story and theory crafting. So when we're talking about Vishap people infiltrating Enkanomiya, that could mean like a lot of things, because Enkanomiya originally was part of the, without getting too much on a tangent because I'm going to talk about this later, it was originally was a part of all of Teyvat, like the uniform culture of people of Teyvat. It was originally part of that. Then it descended, and then it became Enkanomiya in terms of its offshoot society. It's closed off civilization due to it being under the sea. And Orobashi came and all that stuff. Again, I'll talk more about that later. But my point in bringing this up is the Vishap infiltration could have happened, like, I don't know how long ago that started, because the very beginning of Enkanomiya, when they were first thrust in under the sea, and because the seal had weakened and they were thrust down here. Wait, no, they were thrust down here and sealed. Orobashi fell down here when the seal weakened. Sorry. But the Vishaps were at odds with the people, the humans, from day one. There was like a period of time in the very early Enkanomiyan culture. It wasn't called Enkanomiya. It was starts with a B. I can't pronounce it. It starts with a B. It's a very long, ancient sounding name, but that was the original civilization, and they spent a period of time, at least a few generations, in utter darkness, and they had like only like torches and like very small sources of light to protect themselves against the Vishaps, who were like, yo, this is our territory. What the fuck are you doing here? So they were at odds for like ever, like literally since the beginning of the existence of Enkanomiya as a civilization. They've been at odds. So this infiltration of Vishap people, Enjo didn't specify when that began. Maybe it happened after Orobashi came down, or was it before? I don't know, because there was like the era of the Sun Children, which I'll talk about too, that could have been infiltrating then. Like, I'm not sure. So Kokomi says the Vishap people don't exist. Enjo said the Vishap people do exist. I don't know what to think. I think they do. The idea, the concept, right, of a Vishap being able to change form isn't incredibly outlandish. We do know that only Archons so far that we know, right? And like Adepti and yokai as well. Certain yokai can fully change their form, can fully change shape. And we know that it probably takes quite a lot of energy to do, right? Or everybody could do it. Everybody would do it. The fact that Morax has changed his shape so many times throughout history. Venti changed his shape day one of being an Archon. I have a feeling it's probably costs something, right? And I'm assuming that I'm assuming it has to do with elemental something, because the Vishaps are elemental beings, right? They're dragons, essentially. Their power is drawn from the elemental realm, which is also the light realm. But the reason why they don't like light is what Tsumi said, is because light, it means that humans are about and humans are stinky. And I think that's such an interesting, odd paradox, is that like elemental energy is in a way technically light energy, but right? But they shy away from the light and thrive in the darkness, mostly because that's how they've been living this whole time. But because light also has come to be synonymous with humans, at least that's what Tsumi said. And she was raised by the Vishaps. So I'd love to know more about that, because like, what the fuck did that look like? Because obviously the Vishaps we've seen wandering around in Enkanomiya as little mini bosses when we fight them. they don't talk. They're like creatures, like they don't speak to us. But she said that she had to learn our language, or the language of humans. So I'm wondering, so as every dragon that we come across, like if we handed it a book or like tried to teach it to speak, would it like where's the line here? Because they said that there were like elites, which are the two down in the prison, right? That they were trying to get out. That was the whole point of the event, or not. Well, yes, they made a deal with Enjo, and they were trying to infiltrate in order to save the two imprisoned Vishaps. But I just find it interesting that Tsumi, who is supposed to be, as Kokomi said, all the hopes were put on her to be able to communicate between the humans and the Vishaps. And I think that in a way she is that. She did become that. She has the culture because she was raised by Vishaps. Do they have a culture? I'm not sure. She was raised in their culture or environment, I should say. So she kind of thinks like a Vishap, but she also was healing humans, and she was like taking care of humans despite wanting to snuff out the light so darkness could reign once again. I don't know. I found that intriguing. Enjo also said that the Vishaps didn't know that abyssal darkness is toxic to them. This is probably it's one of the most interesting pieces of information, because what do you mean they don't know? I mean, I guess I just assumed they would, because Enkanomiya, they said that the abyssal power, elemental power, and like the human realms, they're all like, they're really strong in this location. They kind of overlap. And so you would think that in an environment that borders or flirts with abyssal power or space or whatever, that they would have some knowledge that, like, I'm assuming they keep away from the abyssal stuff, right? And I would assume that they would, through the years of being down here, would know that that's bad for them or like it harms them. So was it just Tsumi that made the deal with Enjo and she didn't know? Also, more questions. How old is she? Because Kokomi said that she spoke of the last of the vassals. And of course, Kokomi didn't give us a fucking date, even though she has records. It's less Kokomi's character's fault, but like the writers. But they didn't give us a date. So we don't know when. She said that Tsumi was just an infant girl. But Kokomi's not old, and she doesn't have eternal life that we know of. So I don't know, like, how old Tsumi is. I'm assuming she's been down here for a while. So I don't know, like, the last of the vassals. I would assume that happened towards the end of the Archon War, which is when around the time that Orobashi was killed and slain by A. She said that when Orobashi died, obviously his vassals stopped being born. How long was that period of time? When was the last vassal born? Which is what I'm assuming what Tsumi is, right? She's the last vassal. One of the last divine vassals of Orobashi. So like half snake, half person. Not a Vishap person, even though those might exist too. But like just one of the last divine messengers, and she just never knew much about that because she was raised by Vishaps. Very convoluted, but I'm wondering like how old she is, and if these divine vassals, like, what was their lifespan like? Were they like, they weren't human, right? They just took the forms of human, like yokai. They kind of take humanish, humanoid forms, but they're really not human at all. Is it like the same kind of concept? Because I feel like being half human genetically is different than having humanoid features. Does that make sense? I know I'm splitting hairs, but I feel like being half human obliges you to be somewhat bound to a more human lifespan, is why I'm bringing that up. Because if they're not actually half genetically human and they're just half visually half human, but they're still divine vassals, so does that mean they have extended life? Like, how old is Tsumi? Like, how long has she been around? How does Kokomi know about the infant? It's like, did she read that in the records? Because I know for a fact, like, Kokomi wasn't around to see Tsumi as an infant. Like, Kokomi's not that old, so what's the timeline here? Like, where are we at? So I don't know how old Tsumi is. If my instinct is to think that the last of the vassals were born quite a while ago, which means Tsumi has been around for quite a while. I don't know. Like, I just keep thinking about it, and I just keep confusing myself because the timeline on certain things are just, it's so messy. But anyway, I think I'm at the point where I'm accepting Tsumi is one of the last of the divine vassals, but she was raised by Vishap. She's not a Vishap person, even though those probably exist, but she is one of the last divine vassals. So I'm wondering if we'll see her again. I'm not sure. Normally, the masked shrine maidens never make a reappearance after the end of their quests mostly for the worst, because the worst happened. But I don't know. I wonder if we'll ever see Tsumi again. It made it sound like Kokomi was like, I hope, I wish her the best. Like, I have nothing against the Vishaps, which are Tsumi's people in a way, because she was raised by them, so she feels like she belongs with them. Because she said that a monster or a beast doesn't belong, or humans belong where they're born, beasts belong where they're fed. And so maybe she felt like, because the Vishaps like raised her, or she was raised with Vishaps, that's where she was fed, and so that's where she must stay. I don't know, but Kokomi was like, I wish her the best, and wherever that is, she's welcome here, she's welcome to stay there, it's up to her. But speaking of Kokomi, I think that one of the reasons why I just, this whole Enkanomiya quest and the event that we've just watched, I just love Kokomi. Like, I know, okay? I know she was kind of done dirty with her story quest. I know she was kind of done dirty in the main arc on quest. But this depth of knowledge that she is directly tied to, directly by blood. She's a Enkanomiya. Like, she is directly tied to all of this. And it's so, like, she's so, the idea of her and the concepts of Enkanomiya and the history of it, I just nerd out over because it's just so fucking cool learning about this, like, almost primordial prehistoric, not almost, actually primordial and prehistoric times, ancient times, that the ruins of it and the remnants of it have survived in this way for so long, and that Koko is so tied innately to it still, and that the people of Watatsumi still access these remnants to re-enhance their land, because Orobashi wanted the people to be able to continue to care for themselves even when he was gone. But I just love all of it, and I just love her that she's a part of it. I wish she was a more active part, but you gotta give and take. I wish she was like down there. I would have loved to see her like actually interact with Tsumi herself. Like, I think that interaction would have been so worth it. Like, I know they were like, oh, Koko has to like stay and tend to the wounded, and I guess, but like towards the end, at least, when like all the soldiers were out of the Enkanomiya, like it was less code red, I feel like she should have. I mean, I know the priestess was like, we wouldn't let you go down there, even if like they were protective of her because she's their divine priestess. She's like their head of government. So they don't want her in any danger. So I guess, but I still think it would have been so worth it to see Koko down there herself, you know? And just to see her interact with the environment or like get an impression of her thoughts. Because has she ever been down there? I don't know. I assume not. I mean, I don't know. I don't know if she's ever been down there. And to have her interact with Tsumi, I feel like it would have just been so cool to see those ancient bloodlines, the dormant bloodline in Enkanomiya, stirring within Coco's blood, and we had the last divine vassal. Like, come on! I so wish they would have interacted. Even just a little. I think that would have been such an interesting encounter, and like the things they would have said to each other. Like, I'm just so curious. Like, that would have just been such a cool interaction, and I'm just sad that we didn't get it. But, you know, beggars can't be choosers. But I think it's interesting that Coco absolutely struck down the idea of Vishap people because it just wasn't in their records. But Enjo, who's from the Abyss, was like, hey, Vishap people are a thing. And I just think it's just interesting that Coco was like, oh yeah, that's absolute fiction. It's absolute fiction. It's not in our records, which is so within her personality. You know what I mean? Like, she's not unreasonable or irrational in any way. And she's not open to like new concepts that she doesn't already know. But I feel like when it comes to this kind of stuff, she would definitely be more inclined to believe records, well-kept records of her shrine and her people and her bloodline, than she would be to believe something that the travelers said that was told to them by an Abyss agent. So who was attempting to stall, and like, you know, it doesn't sound like it's not a really good source, you know. But I still think Enjo was probably telling the truth in, like I said, half-truths. I think Vishap people are a thing. But that leads me into my full Enkanomiya section, because one of the things I want to bring up about Enjo and the Vishap people is assuming that the Vishap infiltration occurred before Orobashi, that it was started before Orobashi. He said that they infiltrated into high ranks of Enkanomiya culture. Since we weren't given dates, they could have been infiltrating Enkanomiya during the Sun Children era. Now, the Sun Children are such a horrific part of Enkanomiya's history. When I was doing this quest, I was so horrified, truly and sincerely horrified, to learn what the Sun Children were, who they were, because we talked to their sin shades, which I also want to their sin shades, which I want to talk about that term and like the existence of them, and the sin shades throughout Enkanomiya, by the way, we can talk to when the light is gone. I'll get to that. But when you can talk to the Sun Children and listen to them and about their hobbies and what they were good at and what they enjoyed to do, and the fact that they're killed ritually, systematically murdered in cold blood before they can realize that they're being manipulated by the nobles who inaugurated them, is just so abhorrent. It's so abhorrent. And learning about how the nobles took power and essentially twisted the people to believe in the, you know, the big tower of light that was created by Helios, who was gifted that knowledge. They got everybody to believe that the tower itself was the god, not the primordial one, not other gods or whatever. No, the tower itself, and that the Sun Children were chosen by this tower to rule. But the nobles were the ones who were doing the ruling. It's like Mondstadt all over again. The nobles, the greedy nobles, were monopolizing this system, and the cost was innocent lives. In this case, child lives. Innocent children were being chosen. they were told what to say, and the children didn't know any better because they're children. So they did what the nobles told them, and then once they got old enough to figure out, hey, I'm being manipulated, or this isn't what I think, or I don't want to do this, they were killed. And they were killed in a ritual, quote unquote ritual, that was supposedly it's called the solar return, and it was like supposed to be like this whole thing. And like, oh, it's part of the ritual of the god that they're returning to their god, but they were just killing children. Because the children were getting older, and God forbid the child was like, oh my god, this is wrong, I don't want to do this, or I don't believe in this, or I am self-aware now because my frontal lobe is developing and I don't like being told what to do. It just truly was so horrible. I don't know how long the Sun Children era was, because again, we don't have any dates, so it's hard to know. But the infiltration of the Vishap people, if we're assuming Vishap people are real, if we believe Enjo and don't believe Kokomi, and we assume that they were real, the Vishaps could have been like anyone. There wasn't any talk though of like the nobles having weird eyes, because originally I was like, my brain was like, oh my gosh, like cranked overdrive, and it was like, what if the nobles were all Vishaps and they were getting revenge on the Enkanomiya people by like oppressing the people through the nobles, through the children. But I'm like, okay, that's just a lot. I don't know if that is what happened, but because there was no mention of like the nobles having weird eyes or something like that. I feel like there would have been a throwaway line at least about that, but no. So maybe the Vishaps weren't like infiltrating Enkanomiya during the Sun Children era, but Orobashi, when he fell down to Enkanomiya, for whatever reason, we still don't really know why. He went down there. He was thrown down there because the Primordial One seal weakened. Because there's so much lore. I'm trying not to lose my train of thought. There are so many better lore videos if you want like a full outline of the Enkanomiya stuff. But when he fell down there, he was beseeched by a child to please be our god, because the Sun Children were a fucking horror show. And Orobashi was like, okay, challenge accepted. I'll overthrow these nobles. They suck ass. And so much like Venti, not exactly, but there was an overthrowing. Orobashi overthrowed the nobles. I don't know how that happened or what happened. I don't know if there was a rebellion like with Venti. I don't know. But I know Orobashi spearheaded it, unlike Venti, who was like the little angel, little fairy on the shoulder of the people who were rebelling. Orobashi, I think, spearheaded it and like was the one who overthrew the nobles. So he put an end to the Sun Children, he put an end to the nobles, and he became the guardian deity of Enkanomiya. And they worshipped him. There is also a serpent god, Ouroboros, that was also worshipped, but I think that was a made up one, I think is what I remember reading. That it wasn't, I don't know the specifics of it. I don't know if it's even confirmed in game yet, so you guys probably, you lore nerds like me down in the comments I'm sure will be very insightful and helpful in clearing this up. But I'm pretty sure Ouroboros wasn't a real god, but he was another serpent god that was worshipped down there, just like Orobashi was. I don't know if Ouroboros came first, if he was worshipped in another possible civilization down there, because there's been hints that Enkanomiya wasn't the only civilization of people who survived the descent down there, so we don't know. He could have been, I don't know. But the Ouroboros was another serpentine god that was worshipped. Just putting that out there. But Orobashi became the official deity, and I want to talk about this because I had so many opinions on Orobashi, on and the clash that happened. This Enkanomiya and the story in Enkanomiya and in this event too, added to context, but has completely, well, not completely, but it's given so much context that's shifted my opinion. I feel like Orobashi was between most of the fandom. I feel like there's mostly two sides of like, A was right to put him down because he overstepped. He tried to infiltrate, he was harming her people, she needed to put him down. And then there's the other side who are like more empathetic, who are like, well, he was trying to protect Watatsumi. He was trying to provide for his people. He was trying to, like all the other Archons who fought each other, for land, for resources, for people, whatever. He was just doing what all the other Archons were doing during the Archon War. He was fighting for territory. If maybe it wasn't personal against A specifically, but, or not technically A, her sister was the one who was the Archon, but you know what I mean? It was A who put him down. He was just doing what he was supposed to. He was just doing his duty as a god in the Archon War. He didn't have any choice, brokering peace wasn't something that was normally done. And he was just trying to get resources. The Enkanomiya has completely altered that situation in terms of context. Okay? Orobashi pleaded with Celestia to let his people, Enkanomiya, up back to the surface. He said, I must take them back up. They cannot dwell down here. I don't want them down here. I don't want them wasting away in the darkness with a single light for the rest of their time. For generations to come, I don't want them down here. I need to bring them to the surface. And because again, I'm trying not to get off track, but the Primordial One originally sealed Enkanomiya down there. It was a no-no. They weren't allowed to come back up. We still don't know the specifics of why. Obviously, there's speculation, but I'm going to leave that to theory crafters, okay? But they were not allowed to come back up was the main issue, which is why they stayed down there. So when Orobashi came down there, it was like a big thing. That's why they were like, oh, be our god, protect us, blah, blah, blah. Okay. Orobashi, after guarding them and overthrowing everything and being like, oh, wow, I want to cultivate this people, he wanted to bring them back up. And that was something that the Primordial One, or the powers that be, were like, no. And he said, please. And there was a bargain that was struck. And in exchange for his life, the Enkanomians would be allowed to return to the surface. I think that Orobashi, unless this was like dictated specifically in verbiage in the game that I don't remember reading specifically, or I just didn't find, but I'm pretty sure that him going and threatening Inazuma, not A specifically, threatening Inazuman people and being slain by A was him fulfilling his end of the deal of giving his life for Watatsumi. I'm pretty sure that's how that went down. I'm pretty sure that's the reason. Which completely changes things. Completely. It definitely lessens my... not antagonism. I feel like that's a strong word. But I had very strong opinions on A. And I still do. And not necessarily in a fully negative way, but it was hard for me to sympathize with her at first on certain things, on certain decisions, right? I had a very tumultuous experience with her character, as I feel like most people did. I acknowledge, like, if you want to watch my full journey with A, I have her character quest video, which I start out like super not understanding her, and like then as the quest goes on, I start to learn more about her, and then once we read all of her wiki stuff, like I get more context. But even so, I feel like even now I'm getting more context on her, and the fact that Orobashi wasn't trying to overstep his bounds. If the deal he made with Celestia is to be believed, you have to give your life so the Watatsumi people can survive on the surface, they can stay up world, the way he chose to go out was having A slay him. Because what else was going to be? Because what else was going to happen? He was going to kill himself. Like, I feel like that would have been a horrible, would have horrible ripple effects on the people of Watatsumi, because they'd be like, oh my god, our god killed himself, like we're hopeless, like we've been abandoned. I feel like that would have been the cultural ripple effect over the centuries, is that our god abandoned us, he left us. But instead, he knew that if he antagonized A enough, she would take him out, which is what happened. I think I knew, because when I was thinking of that, like previously with Orobashi, I was kind of on his side in this sense where it's like, I understand where he's coming from. Like, I sympathized before knowing this knowledge. I was like, I understand. Like, obviously I don't like that he was threatening human lives, Inazuman human lives. That's obviously not cool. But I think I kind of understand where they were coming from. But now he was literally just trying to find a way to go out with the least issue, like with creating the least lasting issues. If A slayed him, the worst thing that would happen is that there would be slight animosity. Well, not slight. That's definitely not the correct word. There would be animosity between Watatsumi and Inazuman people, possibly, which is what happened. But that's like the worst thing that could happen. If he had like sacrificed, like killed himself, or had one of his own people do it, kill him, I feel like that would have crumbled the framework of their civilization, of their people, of their culture. It would have had devastating effects. So in order to preserve his people in the best way, I feel like he felt was possible, he said, if I know exactly what to do. I need to threaten A, because he knew that she was powerful. He knew that she would strike him down if he started hurting and encroaching on Inazuman territory and harming Inazuman lives. He knew she would be sent after him. And I think that's how he chose to go out. And I keep repeating this, but it adds so much context, not just to Orobashi, but to A as well. And Orobashi is so misunderstood, and it's been recorded a very specific way, I feel like, within Inazuman culture, and Watatsumi has very different records of him too, because they didn't know the full truth. They didn't know. And I don't know if I'm theory crafting about him giving his life in this way, or if this was like actual verbiage. It's all blending in my head, but I'm almost positive that was the deal, is that his bargain with Celestia was like, my people get to come and live on the surface, I will give my life. And his body is the scales, his coral scales is literally Watatsumi Island, which is why we have the whole, like, you have to get the coral branch to rejuvenate the soil. And that's what Tsumi was talking about with the divine vassals, or the creatures that helped break down the raw elemental energy of his divine body, right? I think into materials that humans could ecologically consume is I think that's what I'm to be believed. That's what's to be believed. Pretty sure. Pretty sure. So that process was something that Orobashi had planned ahead for since he concocted the plan to bring his people up to the surface anyway. He's like, by God, if I have to give my own body to be the land they feed off of and live off of, for them to survive up here in the world, in Teyvat, on this plane, in this environment, I will fucking do it. And I don't know, there's something so beautiful about that. It's tragic and it's awful. But, you know, it's just another sacrifice in the line of sacrifices that have either been unrecorded or misunderstood by the annals of history according to whichever culture dictated the writing of said history, right? Like, I thought one of the most interesting lines from the event itself was Tsumi saying, the Vishaps copied their victors or something like that. And that resonated with me. Because, like, that's such a cool concept and it's so realistic. Like, a lot of defeated groups of people throughout history, not currently or anything like that, or, you know, I'm not referencing any specific culture or whatever, but throughout history, the victors get to decide how things are run. And most of the time, it's to oppress whoever the losers were, and whoever lost needed to adjust to the victor's demands of whatever the situation was. So copying the victor's culture, their ways, their habits, their dress, their mannerisms, their language, whatever, was something that's been done throughout history. And to see that concept in Genshin implied in this way, and it's just so cool. Like, I don't know, I love it. I'm really being a little nerd about it, but it's just a cool little thing. I think that concludes my thoughts. I know it was kind of scattered, and honestly, Enkanomiya lore and like understanding the timeline is so confusing, because as interesting as the primordial one is, and the second who came, and trying to figure out who the fuck they were, and there's mention of the four shades, like, I don't even want to get into that because I feel like that's its own video, but I'm just talking about Enkanomiya itself. Okay? And none of the information we learned from Enkanomiya about things outside of Enkanomiya, I feel like that's its own video, but the primordial one, the second who came, the catastrophe that happened, the timeline, all that predates Zhongli even, okay? Ages before Zhongli existed. And he's the oldest motherfucker around, as far as we know, aside from... No, he's the oldest, right? Are any of the dragons older than him? The dragons, like Astaha, I actually don't know. Wait, Astaha's not older than him, is he? Maybe he is. I don't know. We never were given a date. He was just like of the rock, of the mountain, and Zhongli gave him eyes and stuff. But he's like a dragon creature. He's like a Vishap, right? So, I don't know. Because I'm assuming all Vishaps and like primordial beings predate the Archons, obviously, were around during the primordial one's reign. And then the second who came had a whole situation. There was a catastrophe. That's when Enkanomiya was sent down into the depths, is during that catastrophe. That's when Teyvat was on one nation of people. Like, it was like a... everybody was the same culture. It was like one unified culture. And then the catastrophe happened. Enka fell to the depths. Then Enka kind of developed in its own pocket of time. And then, oh my god, I can't believe I almost forgot to talk about this. The envoys of Conria that came to Enkanomiya the day before, right? The day before Enkanomiya was to return to the surface. So Orobashi was still around, okay? He was going to be taking Enkanomiya up to the surface. The day before this happened, Conrian envoys were sent to Enkanomiya to retrieve a certain book, Before the Sun and Moon, which is the book that talks about the primordial one and details, well, not details as much, I mean details as in like we don't know any of this information yet, but in terms of actual dated details, it's like it gives us nothing. We don't know any dates. We have a very loose timeline, and it's kind of phrased almost as like myth or fable. Like it's not all like factually written. Like even the author of some of the books, there's 5 important books that you can read and discover, and you have to return to the library in Enkanomiya. And one of them is Before the Sun and Moon. And there's other ones that also have a lot of interesting, detailed information about pre-Archons, the Archon War, the catastrophe, and Enkanomiya's development. But the Conria specifically was interested in learning, getting their hands on the book about the Primordial One, which I thought was very suspicious. I think it also lines up that the Conrians would be very fucking invested in understanding how the world was, what the world was like before the Archons and Celestia, I guess. Because Celestia has the Archons on their... The Archons were leashed, right? The Archons were given power from Celestia. So having information about before Celestia, before the Archons, and what the world was like prior to that, that's knowledge that Conria for sure would want. And also probably a huge reason why Celestia tried to hard delete Conria from existence, because forbidden knowledge like that could be the key to understanding a weakness or anything to exploit about Celestia's overruling power. We don't know. Like, we don't know anything, but the fact that Conria was after that book is so... It was such a vital piece of information. And the fact that they didn't get their hands on that book probably meant that whatever knowledge they could have learned is probably what might have saved them when Celestia brought the hammer down. And when it did, they did not have that knowledge. They failed to retrieve it. So I don't know. I think that all of that happened in Enkanomiya. My experience was astounding. I was blown away. Like, let's talk about less lore, but the actual experience of discovering Enkanomiya was fucking amazing. I had no idea what I was getting myself into when I started that quest to unlock Enkanomiya. I did not know what the fuck was happening. I didn't realize that there was Enkanomiya. Like, I had no knowledge of it. I didn't know that there was something beneath Watatsumi. Like, I had no idea. So when I was doing these and I was like unlocking the seals, I was like, oh my God, this is a big deal. Like, I'm not just doing some small cultural side quest. This is huge, because we kept unlocking seals. We had trials that we went through. And then when that fucking water hole opened up and we jumped down it, like, my breath was stolen. And then we fall down into this cavern, and there's luminescence in the water, and you come across these creatures, these Vishaps I hadn't seen before, and I was just like, I was blown away, dude. Like, I couldn't believe this. I was like, I couldn't even think about recording because my brain was I was so sucked in. I was so immersed in the fact that I was discovering something that I had no inkling would be there. And as I kept going through the cavern, I saw that there was Conrian mechanics there, and I was like, oh shit, this isn't prehistoric or ancient unexplored territory. There are ruins here. This was a civilization. Oh shit, Conria was here, or at least Conrians in some capacity. And as I kept going, I saw serpent statues, and I was like, oh shit. Like, my oh shit meter just kept getting higher and higher. Because I knew about Orobashi, right? I knew about Orobashi, and I was like, oh shit, serpents? No fucking way. And then I kept going, and then I got to the doors. Those massive fucking doors. And when those doors opened and that light beamed through those doors, it was one of the most magical moments of Genshin for me, like, hands down. And mostly because I just didn't know that it was there. Like, I didn't know about this. I didn't know. And it was just this insanely huge place that I just completely didn't know was there. And going into that cavern and seeing how fucking vast it was, that there were islands floating in this mysterious mist. I was just, man, I was fucking blown away. And the light, the beaming light, I didn't understand it. I don't know what the fuck it was, but I was like, holy shit, what is this? And just walking through all the ruins and learning about Enkanomiya's past and getting snippets of pre-Archon's like history within Teyvat was so cool. I will never not love Enkanomiya. I don't care. I love that place. I think the music is so beautiful. It's so, like, it captures the tragic hollowness of that place. And one of the most immersive things to do is to turn off the light, the Helios tower, turn off the light, and the darkness and the way that plants light up and luminescence floats in the air and in the water and in the creatures, and to hear how quiet it is. There's this like very not mysterious, that's not the word I'm looking for, ominous wind that blows through this humongous cavern. And I always am just, because the grass is always really swaying, and in the soundtrack and the immersive like sounds when you're walking around is this like blowing of the wind, and I'm just like, where is this wind coming from, or like where is this airflow coming from? And I know it's a huge cavern, so it's like it's huge. So it's not like a small cave where like a gust of wind is like has to have an immediate source. But I mean, the wind is like really blowing because the grass is always really swaying, trees are always swaying, there's always petals and like fronds of stuff like lifting into the air. Hilichurls are there, which is interesting. I know we take advantage. We assume, like when we see a Hilichurl, we're like, oh, just like a regular enemy. But Hilichurls being in Enkanomiya is very interesting, whether they got here themselves somehow. The doors are closed when we got to Enkanomiya originally, right? But obviously Watatsumi people have come in and out, so there's a possibility Hilichurls could have found their way down here after being Hilichurls on the upside, on the upper world. But the fact that there's Hilichurls here is interesting. I was like, okay, did they become Hilichurls in this location? Like, I don't know. How old are these Hilichurls? We don't know. But walking through, seeing the different enemies, seeing the Conrian mechanics, like the mechanical machines and the lectors, dude. The Abyss lectors and that whole, all the not shrines, but the tombstones you can go to and retrieving all the stuff, and you fight those lectors. I think my mind was blown when I realized that Child's, I know I'm so scatterbrained, I'm so sorry. But Child's like, I noticed this before too, like way earlier. I think when we first fought an Abyss lector, all the way in one of Dainsleif's first quests with him, we fought an Abyss lector. And I think I noticed that then too, but the spears that they use, the water spears, is very similar to Child's. And we know Child spent and was trained in the Abyss, so obviously that checks out. But there were a lot of spears that looked very similar to Child's water spear and Abyss lector spears that looks like petrified over, like in rock, or like, yeah, petrified I think is the better term. But they're like sitting there and they look very familiar. They look similar to the Abyss lector spears, and it's just like, wait, what? Like, like what? And I think it's because Enkanomiya, the ruins that we explore are not only Enkanomiya's ruins prior to coming to the surface, but prehistoric Enkanomiya with the B. The name with the B, I can't pronounce it, but it's a really long name. it's what Enkanomiya was known before as, when it was still part of Teyvat as a whole, before it sunk, before it fell during the disaster. It was part of Teyvat as a whole. So some of the architecture we're seeing, that's, I think, why some of the architecture is so similar to like architecture we see in Mondstadt, in the ruins in Mondstadt, or even in Liyue. Like there's similarities between some architecture because it was once part of one culture, one civilization, and the fact that it's preserved more so than it is in any other nation, obviously, because it's just sitting down here. So we're kind of looking at ruins on top of ruins. So ruins of ancient Enkanomiya with the B. Big B Enkanomiya. We're looking at those ruins, remnants of those ruins, and we're also looking at and searching through more recently ancient ruins from Enkanomiya during the Archon War, and then Enkanomiya right before it came up and Watatsumi was born. So we're like, it's so fun as a history nerd in real life. I love history, like real world history is so cool. I'm just like a little nerd, so learning about fictional history about fantasy worlds is even cooler. So being able to explore these ruins and like try to figure out like, okay, was this like original, like prehistoric Big B Enkanomiya stuff, or is this like Archon War Enkanomiya stuff? Like, it's fun to try and figure out which is what. And I love Enkanomiya. I love the vibes down there. I mean, they're sad. I'm not saying I love them because they're like amazing and cheerful, but the atmosphere that Enkanomiya creates is so memorable. I honestly, it's one of my favorite places in any game ever. I don't know. I just love that I discovered it so blindly the way I did, and that the storytelling was through the actual world itself. You're learning about the story of the place simply by exploring it. And I loved that. I loved it so much. And the fact that it had all these like secret answers that is forbidden, that Conria was trying to get their hands on, and that we didn't know at this point. God, it's just such a goldmine of amazing stuff. One of the last things I wanted to mention before I close out is the sin shades, okay? The people ghost things that you talk to throughout the Enkanomiya world quest. We didn't see any or talk to any during the event, it looked like, unless that was cut out. But during the world quest, you talk to many sin shades. And this is such an interesting thing to think about, because we know that ley lines can leak memory, can leak souls almost in a way. The memory of a soul, the soul's memory, one or the other. And we can interact with that memory. We did it in Raiden's quest. We've done it a couple times already before. So we know that it's possible to speak to quote unquote ghosts because they're from the ley lines. But sin shades are decidedly different than like ley line ghosts is what I want to call them. The fact that they are called sin shades, sin is popping up, is a term, is like a hot term that's popping up that I'm noticing, is that the sin, there's a great sin. Humans did a great thing wrong. That there's a great sin that happened, or I don't know. Sin is such an important, I think is going to be such an important word going forward. But sin shades is it's so I don't even know what to conceptualize it as, because when we talk to, I forget who said it, who told us what, maybe it was Enjo who was explaining what they were, and that they are or maybe it was like the people believed this as too. I don't remember who told us, but we were told that they are the remnants of past lives come back to, I don't know, haunt us. I'm not sure, but this was happening before Enkanomians rose to the surface. So the Sin Shades had been popping up well before before Orobashi showed up. I think. Like during the Sun Children era, I'm pretty sure Sin Shades were well established as a thing. I think. And then, I find it interesting too that we can only see them with the light of Helios off. We cannot speak to them. They don't show up if the light is out. That they only exist on, I'm assuming, like abyssal power or something, because Enkanomiya is like the overlay spot of like abyssal power and elemental power and the human realm, right? It's like this crossover of stuff. So I'm wondering if the Sin Shades are somehow like abyssal leyline ghosts or something. Maybe it was explained and I'm not remembering, or like if there's verbiage in game, not theory crafting, but like actual verbiage in game explaining what they are specifically and how they came to be. Because I remember being told about them and that they were around before, but I'm pretty sure they were around before Orobashi, and they've still around since. And it's how we learn about the Sun Children. It's how we learn about we learn all about Enkanomiya's past prior to rising back up with Orobashi. We learn about all of that history through these Sin Shades for the most part, and getting context. And it's just so sad. Like the idea of them and talking to Helios, Abraxas. I'm a little iffy on the name, but the guy who created the tower, we still don't know if he's the same guy who was gifted the knowledge originally and then made this tower, and if that same sage guy is the same one who was there like hundreds and hundreds of years later. Like, I'm not sure if he was a Sin Shade and people were talking to him as a Sin Shade. I don't know. I feel like there was lots of speculation, but I still think just the concept of Sin Shades is so interesting, especially with what we know of the Abyss, what little we know of the Abyss and the intent of the Abyss. Enjo being here to retrace old Conrian steps, I think is what the original goal was, to get his hands on knowledge. I just find it all so interesting, and I could talk about this for another like fucking hour, but I'm going to, I've said my piece on what I wanted to bring up. I don't have like answers for everything, but it's just things that I would love to hear your opinion on in the comments. If you have any information I missed or I'm not remembering, or if I got something wrong, like, I'd just let me know, because I know that Enkanomiya lore is a absolute feast of information and speculation and theories and all this stuff. So, but I love it. It's so fun. So if you have your own theories, I'd love to hear them. If you have information that I missed or didn't understand correctly, definitely let me know, because I love this stuff. It's very interesting to me. But yeah, I think I'm going to close that out. I think overall, I had such a blast in Enkanomiya. I loved this event. I was invested 110,000% of the time. I love Kokomi. I am more sympathetic with A now. And I love Orobashi. I think he is... and he's the tragic unsung hero, right? He did what he could in the least ideal situation ever. He did what he could for his people. And I think that is a resounding similarity to A. Currently, she's doing what she can for her people in the way she knows how, in a situation that might not end up being ideal in the future. Same with Zhongli. He did his best to leave his people to themselves with the tools and abilities to protect themselves. I mean, Venti, he leaves Mondstadt up to itself. Like, I don't know. I just think it's very interesting that the Archons, despite originally having all fought each other to control land for the sake of territory. I think it was more not instinctual or feral. What's the word I'm looking for? Primal. Primal. I think it was more primal to like want territory originally, because there were so many Archons before, and that you had this original 7 seeded who were the strongest, right? So who won against all the other gods vying for power. So the power fest that happened, I feel like, was very primal. That's why a lot of the times Zhongli, when referenced during that time, he even himself almost talks about it like he was a different person, which I'm assuming he probably was all the way back then. But I feel like that was such a much more primal time. And to have now the Archons that we know currently exhibit the same desire to... It's almost... I don't know if they were against humanity before, other than obviously being sicked on Conrea, but I think that's slightly different than their own nations, their own people, right? They were never asked to be killing their own people that we know of. that we know of so far. They were never asked to kill their own people. But I think they've taken humanity's side, especially Zhongli, he's like, I'm a god of humanity. Damn, I really find every way to talk about Zhongli, where this is an Enka video, but you know what I'm trying to say. A too is this way, okay? I'm tipping my hat, okay? Tipping my hat to Miss A and Venzi. They all have the same desire to side with their people, to strengthen them by whichever means they think is best, and not like in an impressive way, but because A used to be that way. Well, that was a whole situation, but you know what I mean? It's now it feels very uplifting, like they're working together to make this place a time of humanity. And I feel like Orobashi was doing that ahead of his time. Not that Zhongli never cared about his people, that's obviously completely false, but I feel like Orobashi embodies that same thing, that he did the most with what he could for his people. And he is not Morax. He is not Raiden A. He doesn't have that same power level. Zhongli could walk away. He could have stepped back in to help Liwei if he wanted to. A is more than capable still of slaying whoever the fuck needs to be slayed, right? Venti pretends like he's useless, but I feel like we all know that's a complete falsehood. They have the power to not have to resort to ending their life. Orobashi had to make a deal with Celestia. He knew there had to be a big sacrifice in order to get his people up to the surface, and he made the sacrifice himself. And I just learning context about that just so enriched Watatsumi's history and Inazuma's history, even more so than it already is. So I love this event. I love Enkanomiya. I'm gonna stop talking now. Goodbye. Thank you so much for making it to the end of the video. If you did, as always, I very much appreciate you spending your time with me. This was so fun to edit. Because listening to me lose my mind, like past me lose my mind over like Enkanomiya lore and stuff was so funny, but also re-editing this, there are so many Sumeru nuggets in a lot of the talk about elemental energy and shit. Like, okay, I'm not gonna talk about it, okay, because we're gonna get to Sumeru and that's gonna come naturally, but listening to past me talk about this stuff, I was like sitting back in my chair like, oh my god, like I was shitting my pants. So I can't wait to continue forward. I hope you enjoyed this video. All links will be down in the description below. Discord, Twitch, what else is down there? Other videos. Oh yes, the original video. Please go give the original content creator a view and a like, because I'm very grateful that they took the time to click on dialogue for everybody, went back to check to make sure no one had extra dialogue. Like, I very much appreciate that. I love dialogue, so definitely go give them a view and a like. I would appreciate it, and I'm sure they would too. If I don't catch you live, then I will see you in the next one.